Welcome to Stories, Wisdom, and Recipes. What a beautiful, beautiful moment this might be, or an embarrassing, turbulent point in your history. We all know what is fair and what is not, though much gray area does thicken the plot. It's West Siders for them and the Green Ridge for those, and then there are the others who are sitting around just thumbing their aggregate-shaped nose. My name is Lawrence Pugliese, and it's nice to have you with us. I've been going through some things as of late, and I'm sure most of you have as well. And in my pursuit of understanding, of happiness and equilibrium, I've come across in the archives of my mind an old saying by Albert Einstein. And here's how it goes. Great spirits have always encountered violent opposition from mediocre minds. This sort of insight helps me just fine. Today's guests are Kevin Haggerty and the Celebrities. We'll be back with Kevin in a moment. Right now, the Celebrities.
I tripped into the sun, my puddles filled with the rain. The waves ripple and they come down, crashing upon my face. Saturn's rings keep going round, making me feel like I'm insane. Well, they're spinning me round, just turning me over, making me feel like I'm insane. When I got up from the ground, there was no one left standing. I couldn't believe my lonely hours. I was the only thing left from all it knew. I can't believe this worldly place and all of this surroundings, going down and down and to the ground like a runaway train. Here on up many wars and battles, but none of war. There are no winners and none are settled, but that's the way they are. Whoa. Yes, I listen to the loud, lonely song. Oh, my puddles filled with the rain. If I can make this world a better place, so I change into battles, but no
Yeah. The celebrities with Here on Earth. And you're watching Stories, Wisdom, and Recipes. Thank you for being here. We'll be hearing more from David Joyce and Steve Martin. That's who these guys really are, the celebrities, later on in the show. And we have Kevin Haggerty at the table. But before that, right now I think you're looking at a cartoon by Timothy Kreider on the screen. This is from his strip called The Pain, When Will It End? And it basically is sort of a reflection on the younger generation and how they're dealing and how they might deal with some of the pressing issues in our society these days. And once we're done with it on screen, I'm going to ask if maybe we can get here at the table so I can show it to Kevin. Funny stuff, Timothy Kreider. If you want to check his website out, I don't know the exact address, but if you're running a search, just type in The Pain, When Will It End? And it's the first site that comes up. It's hilarious stuff. It's a bit subversive. So if you have a weak stomach, maybe you want to avoid the site. Salute to you. And without further ado, Kevin Haggerty.
Lawrence,
Nice to have you here, sir.
thank you for having me.
And Kevin is, he's a very wise man for his young age, and we're going to tap into that today. We're going to talk about social justice. Social justice. And I have a few questions. I'm going to start off with the staple question that we always hit with our guests. Hit it in terms of where it all came from, where you started, where your major influences were first instilled, and that is your birthplace.
Right. Well, born and raised in Dunmore, Pennsylvania, like yourself.
Yes.
And attended the Dunmore School District from kindergarten right through 12th grade, as you did as well.
Yes.
And where it started and what I became to do is quite the opposite. I grew up in a very strong-knit family and a strong-knit community. The high school was a block away from my home. The Little League where I grew up was a block away. And I basically had everything given to me in my life. My father was the superintendent of the school, so I really didn't have a choice of where I was going to attend school. But everything was kind of blessed in my life. And it didn't really hit me until I left some places and left the familiar. I found out that courage is really found when you do leave the familiar. I attended Villanova University, and shortly after became a United States Marine. And that's when things started to really click inside my head about what I've been given in life and the pride that I have and what I need to give back to my community. For the last 6 or 7 years, I've worked with outreach programs and inner city kids and basically doing social justice work for people who don't have what I had growing up.
All right. So your childhood was a good one.
It was a great one.
It was a privileged one, it seems you're saying.
Absolutely.
In many ways. And you didn't realize that until you became a young adult and went out and saw other places in the world. Right. Now, social justice, you mentioned that phrase. How would you define that? What is social justice?
Social justice to me is equality for all citizens to have the opportunities, especially education, regardless of your class, your gender, your race, your economic prowess. It has to be about bringing people together in solidarity and dignity. And it doesn't always occur around the world. In the United States of America, we've asked people to come here, the weak, the hungry, the poor. It's the melting pot of the world. But still, there's so many different social injustices that occur, especially in the Latino and Hispanic populations and the African American population. That's where a lot of my work has occurred. And social justice has not reached out enough. We have not reached out enough as a nation or as a small community.
Okay. So the folks that you've come across, your fellow citizens, I guess you would consider these folks. It seems to me you're not someone who puts yourself on a plateau. It's like these are my fellow citizens who need.
That's right.
Who need me to be there just as I need them to be there, and I'm going to help them with whatever I can. Now, these folks are of basically most often of minority segments of society.
That's correct.
African American, Latino.
African American, Latino, Hispanic. It's there's reasons for it, and it's the neighborhoods that they grow up in and the education that their generations before them have been giving. And these young children are being affected by it today in placement centers, in jails, in public school systems that don't fit the bill. I've been involved in many of these places, and when I look back to my own childhood to see how my friends were supportive around me, these children don't have any kind of support, even with their own friends, because what their friends are doing or what their uncles and aunts and parents were doing, and that's selling drugs to stay alive in quarantine inner cities. So I never looked at these children as court-adjudicated kids. I looked at them as 12-year-olds who never had a chance. And once I gave them my full heart, they gave it back to me. And it was sad to be a part of some of these places that really didn't provide them the necessary tools and education and resources, even in food. They weren't treated like citizens. They had social injustice. And because of it, it's a cyclical cycle of young children going back to the community and committing the same crimes, never really getting the dignity of what life is supposed to be about. And the government is to blame for that in most parts. They really need to evaluate these places. A few of the places that I worked at were shut down years later after things that have been said by different people who work there. And it needs to be awakened in this country.
You use the term quarantined. Can you expound on that? Why do you use that term, quarantined?
Well, when you talk about when you're 15 years old, what do you want to do in life? And you have so many different answers for, I want to be an athlete, I want to be a doctor or a lawyer. These kids wanted to be like their uncle. They wanted to be a drug dealer because that's all they know. They don't have any ideas or outside understanding of what takes place in the real world. And I can't blame them. And if I was in the inner city, I'd be looking up to my uncle as I do today, and my father and my brothers. I looked up to them and I followed their paths. So I would be in the same predicament they were. And that's why I think it's our duty to help them come out of this.
So they're quarantined in terms of...
in knowledge, in geography, there are no limits for them. Everything is on a city block. Some of the youngsters after school don't get to come outside and play because of the serious nature of
violence
and drugs. And there was occasions where I would be asked to stay, and I would have to say no because I had to get out of there before dark. And it was hard to look at a kid on a porch and say he has to stay here for the whole night, and here I can't even stay for dinner. So it's a difficult situation.
Yeah, it does sound like one. Well, when you talk about social justice and you talk about some of the problem areas and the people affected, more specifically, what are some of the issues that you believe are at the forefront?
Healthcare, welfare. There's a process of helping people and bringing them up. And in our welfare system, it really keeps them down. We're oppressing them by giving them, without them reacting and responding to why they're getting these benefits. They're given checks for the number of children they have. They're given checks because they're not working, they're not looking for jobs. They've come to believe in themselves that the government is their big brother. And that's
entitlement, sort of?
Entitlement and oppression. As much as we look like we're trying to help them, we're really keeping them down. And they don't have the education to understand that. And I've just watched, for the programs that I've been involved in, they're satisfied with that. Now, this isn't everybody, but for a good majority of people, they're satisfied by getting government money and never having to go out and get a job. And there's not enough checks and balances. If the federal government's going to give money to these people, the local communities need to check on them and see, what community service could they do for this money. There has to be something that they have to do to receive it, so that they bring, self-awareness to themselves about other places in the world too.
And you're not saying that they need to be doing different things because if you want money, you need to work. You're saying it gives them a sense of self-respect,
right.
A sense of involvement, of empowerment in their own community.
That's right.
And that's a healthier way to exist.
Sure.
And then your mind opens, your energy's flowing, and you can go on to bigger things than what now seems to be available.
That's right, and they're proud of themselves.
Right.
They feel dignified. When someone doesn't work, if someone's unemployed, they don't feel comfortable about themselves. And the minute they get a job, they're confident and happy, and so these people need to have that feeling just like everybody else.
And again, you believe this is mainly just a cyclical situation that stems from the environment that is nurturing the mindset,
That's right.
The outlook. And anybody, no matter your race, creed, sexual orientation, what have you, put in that environment would probably have the same sort of, it would have the same effect on them.
No question. It has nothing to do with someone's race or gender. It's the environment. And I can't sit here and tell you how I would have reacted because I was never there.
Right.
I knew what I had in life, and it was pretty great. But to see what some of these kids do, and to see the kids that get through it, that's what's amazing. That's a true success story, not myself or anyone else who goes on and receives great education and becomes successful and builds a life. The ones that get out of the inner cities and do this, they're the ones that really should be, we should be studying and looking at to see what their future is going to be about.
Right, because of the challenges that they overcame.
That young.
Yeah.
Right.
How about the argument and I'm playing devil's advocate, that one of the reasons there's a certain group of people in terms of race or ethnicity that you see in this segment of society is because of their cultural choices, because of some innate quality rather than because of lack of opportunity. You know, you'll hear people, I've had these discussions to say, well, my ancestors came over without knowledge of language, without much money, and then they brought themselves to a higher place in our social stratification.
Sure.
How do you respond to that mentality? Because that's a problem we do have to analyze, or that not a problem, an accusation we do have to analyze.
I don't believe in it for a second. It's hard with language barriers, especially when an Hispanic speaking person comes to the United States and they're trying to survive and create a life for themselves. And the people that criticize them, really, I look at the person that's criticizing them as someone who's really ignorant. They're the one with the ignorance. This person came over. Sometimes it'll be a priest who comes over from India to speak at a parish, and he's speaking our language. And people sit there and giggle and laugh, and yet they haven't left their own backyards. If I ever had to go to another country and learn the language to survive, not just to learn it, studying in a classroom setting, but to survive and raise a family, I'm just amazed that these people do it. And I think we need to have more respect as Americans, who we are, how we're supposed to open our borders to the world, and to even possibly learn a second language. That's something that needs to be taught more in high schools and in the younger grades. Learn a second language, especially Spanish, because it's going to become almost as popular as the English language.
Well, eventually it will become as popular.
And then I guess it's time to start learning.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. European Americans will not always be the majority in this country. Statistics showcase that trend. Right. By 2050, perhaps, more people will have a heritage that is connected to Latin America or Asia than European America, or Europe, excuse me. So that change will come eventually, I think.
And as a people, we need to be able to adapt. I think I'm ahead of the ballgame because of how I don't judge people. I don't have racism or bias inside of me, and I think I will be able to adjust to these different situations. And it's important to teach this in a young age, the cultural differences.
Now, why are we doing this? Are we doing this to be pragmatic? Are we doing this for moral reasons, for ethical reasons? Are we doing it because it's a new hot industry that we can make a couple bucks off of? Whatever. Why does helping make a difference? And why should we help?
Well, there's so many unique places around the world. There's so many different backgrounds and cultures that ours simply couldn't be the best. Joining forces in anything you do makes the end result better. And so it's important that we learn from all different factions of the world and the ideas flow into the United States. We should be blessed that all these people are coming to our country and that our ideas circle around each other, and then an end result comes out. That makes us better. It makes the world envious, I believe. We look around the places of the world who want one strict regime, and we're seeing what's happening to them. They're slowly leaving the face of the earth, and there's good reason for it. People want to be free. It's an innate feeling. It's an innate ability to exist as a free person. And when people start to learn that, the world's going to come together.
And I agree with you. As that happens, the worldview, the mindset of a particular society is much stronger, because of its dynamic essence. It can deal with social problems. It can deal with inventions that need to come about in a much more expedient manner, because you have so many perspectives coming together. If you're someone from the ancient Mayan tradition, as an indigenous person coming from South America, and you're someone from India who also has a very vast, rich culture that has been passed down from generation to generation, you sit together at the table and you share what you know just as individuals with someone from Italy and from Ireland, and not be caught up in all of these silly, petty pretenses. Imagine how you can analyze and really focus on a particular challenge together with all of that insight, all that history to share. But we get so caught up in those subtle, petty differences, and there aren't really that many. I think most humans, and correct me if I'm wrong, are pretty much the same in what they desire, what they want, how they function from day to day.
Sure. To be loved, to care for others, and to be happy. We all are the same for the majority. And with your own friends, if everybody was the same person, you wouldn't really have a unique life. I mean,
No.
all of my friends have been different from different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different races, and it's made all the difference to me. As you know, they've all molded my life, and I wouldn't want it any other way.
And that's a great analogy, you know, putting it in a more of a microcosm. You as an individual are more cultured in a way. And not to say in a snooty sense. You just understand all of life's issues a little bit more deeply because of all these different insights that have been shared with you.
That's right.
And as a society, we would be the same way if we allowed for it. You said earlier in your conversation, we should look at ourselves as being blessed, having all these different sorts of human beings in one place. And we should tap into that as a strength. But I sense you don't believe we do that enough.
I don't believe we do it enough. A lot of the times, we seem to rally during turmoil. We seem to come together as a people when things have already happened. But we need to learn it every day. We need to appreciate each other every day. We're going to have differences. And even in politics, you see the legislature fighting with the executive. And there's always going to be those problems. But at the end of the day, it's a beautiful system because we get to criticize and critique and analyze, but still have respect. And that's why we're always going to exist as, I believe, the most powerful nation in the history.
Well, you're obviously a patriotic individual, yet you're not, in my view, one of those folks who believe patriotism is just about applauding what's put out there.
No.
Patriotism is about asking the tough questions and trying to find solutions to those tough questions, no matter what the issue is.
That's right.
Do you find that from your work that a lot of folks that come from a similar background as yourself, socioeconomically speaking, and even ethnically and ethnically speaking, that the mindset of folks such as yourself isn't so opened?
Well, I don't think it can be open unless you allow yourself to be part of that certain environment. I don't find that to be ignorant or a mean person who doesn't have these understandings. You have to leave. And again, I'll repeat, it says courage is found in leaving the familiar. And until you leave, you can't really find the courage to open up to other people and to say, this person isn't so bad, and maybe we should learn a little bit about their culture and their life. Just not to judge. I've been taught not to judge and gossip in my life.
That's a great bit of wisdom. Not to judge. That's hard. That's hard.
It's hard. It's hard, especially when you're being judged.
What do you mean?
If you're being judged, and people could say anything they want at any time, and if I'm being if someone's judging my life, the first instinct would be to just rip back at them and judge their life. But that's where it just keeps going on. You got to stop it and care more about people. And even if you're being attacked, you got to just say, I really care about this person, and I want to make their life better. I've been called a lot of things over the years from the students that I taught from a very bad place, and the more that they saw that those words didn't affect me, the more they start to appreciate me. I didn't yell. I didn't yell when I was called a certain thing.
They're testing you.
They were testing me. That's right.
See how genuine you really are, how much you really are willing to stand there and deal.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it took time. It took a long time before the trust was there. But once it was, they became like family, and they literally would listen to every word you said because they believed you were going to take them to a better place.
And did they feel, a lot of the folks that you were working with, comfortable in sharing their own view?
Actually, what do you mean by that?
You were sharing your views.
Right.
Did they feel comfortable to share their own questions and
After
views?
time, absolutely. I mean, they would trusting, alone, scared. The biggest kid at 16, 250 pounds, you think he doesn't have a fear in the world, and then at night you're sitting there talking to him, he's bawling his eyes out, telling you about his brothers and sisters back home, and the next day in class he looks at you as someone who just sat there and listened to him, and he has a whole new respect. Now he wants to learn. No matter what he does now, you were there for him at that moment of weakness. Now he looks at you as an older brother, and that's when the trust really starts.
Well, I'm looking at the two of us, two guys, Irish guy and Italian guy, raised in Dunmore. Again, privileged, both of us, in many ways. Not rich, but privileged.
Right.
And I know how the influences I had in my life. A lot of great ones, a lot of great people. But I also noticed many, many times subtle messages of judgment constantly coming at me of people that were different, or people that were different because of maybe race or because of the socioeconomic status. and an attitude of better to be safe than sorry. You know, don't get yourself involved. It wasn't hateful. It was just more of a fear-based sort of reaction or view. And I think that is a common mentality in this valley. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I don't know, I'm not saying that these folks are bad people. They're good people. They're my neighbors. They're my family. It's me. I'm that way too.
Right.
It's influenced me. But I don't think it's healthy. I think it keeps us sort of regressive when you're talking about making important connections and moving ahead as a community, embracing all of the positive aspects of having, as we were saying earlier, a dynamic citizenry. If we just stay in our little enclaves, you know, the Italian section, the Irish section, the Polish section, the black section, the whatever. How do we get past that? And am I making? I mean,
Oh, yeah,
do you see this?
It's very clear, and it's going to be clear on May 17th when the elections occur. People still vote on their ethnicity.
Oh my God! There's no debate.
There's not even research. A lot of it's not even reading up on the candidate. It's this person is a Mick or an O, and that's who they're voting for.
You're absolutely right.
And that needs to change. That's it's not the system. It's not the representation that we're looking for. I would never want to be in public office one day because my name was Haggerty, and the Irish thought that was good enough for them, and the Italians judged me. Again, here we go. People
Right.
are judging because of a name. Sit down and learn that most of my friends are of all different backgrounds, and I'm blessed again to know this, to feel this inside me. That I would, before I do anything else, I want to speak with this person and spend a day in his shoes and understand them before I judge.
And you know, at some point, you may be coming back here to the area, and you're going to have to deal with this because you've been outside and you've been in the trenches and of many difficult situations. That it seems to me, based on what you're telling me, has given you a lot of insight. You've really developed a much broader worldview and sense of self on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, coming back here, it is homogenous, you know that. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. And again, that safe rather than sorry mentality is pretty prevalent. You're going to have to let me know how you deal with that.
Okay.
Maybe we can commiserate. Because that sort of fear does, again, stymie personal and communal growth. And we as a little enclave in northeastern Pennsylvania deserve to grow. Mm-hmm. We need to grow spiritually, intellectually. And we're very intelligent people, I think, by and large. Very soulful people, by and large. But it's this fear. It's this fear that keeps us...
Of the unknown.
Yeah.
I say what we fear we'll never know, especially our soul. We fear so much that all we need to do is take the chance to know what's going on and who these people are, and we fear that as a people, and I don't understand that. I'm at 32 years on this earth, and I'm not afraid of any kind of person or background or place. You know, I've gone there. I've gone through tough places in my life, in tough times, personally speaking, and I'm just ready to walk into any sort of environment and roll my sleeves up and be ready to work for all, the betterment of all.
And again, you're doing this because
it's in my heart. It's my passion. I've been doing public service work for the last 6 or 7 years, and obviously I'm not going to become a millionaire doing this. But I always say I look at life from the end to the beginning, and a lot of people look at their young life and where they're going to be at the end. I'm going to be an old man one day, God, luckily. And when I look back, I want to say I really made a difference on the earth, and I don't so much look about the future and my success and my cars, my houses. There's a point in your life's going to come and you want to look back and reflect on your own life and not the toys that are around you. And that's been inside me. So some people might call it a lack of success. I don't, and I never will.
Very well put, Mr. Haggerty. You're watching Stories, Wisdom, and Recipes, and you might need a stiff drink to make sense of some of the deep places we're going, or maybe not. Maybe you've been there yourself and you're wondering for a good conversation, and I hope you found it. It's a pleasure to have you with us. My name is Lawrence Pugliese. I'm here with Kevin Haggerty and the celebrities. You're going to be hearing from them in a moment. I'm just going to ask Mr. Haggerty one more question before we go to the celebrities. Kevin, you mentioned voting time, May 17th, and the whole ethnic breakdown. I'm not asking you who you're voting for, don't worry. But why do you think we still, and it is prevalent, no doubt, why do you think we still feel naturally more connected to someone who has a name like ourselves? You know, why is it that an Irishman is more likely to vote for Doherty in Scranton and an Italian more likely to vote for DeBilio and a Polish guy wishing there was a Polish guy running?
Right.
You know, why do we have that mentality, do you think?
Well, it's our roots and what we feel comfortable with. We feel like we have the same kind of backgrounds and beliefs, and if that person's in charge, they're going to help us out the most. And I don't think it goes any further than that. I don't think there's any animosity towards the two backgrounds, but I think you feel connected with your own heritage and your own roots. It's something you have to look beyond. As a person, I would never look at somebody's name to see how I was going to vote. Or an entitled person, you know, a person whose parents were in office doesn't entitle someone in the next generation to be elected. Each person is their own individual, and that's how we should be judging people.
Otherwise, you might not get the best person for the job.
That's right.
And it's as simple as that.
And it occurs today, and we're better than that. You know, we're not royalty, and I look at royalty as something that I don't understand why people are so excited about it. Just passing on family names and legacy.
It's a history thing, I think. It's, you know, tradition, sense of history.
And it is, but we're great for a reason, because we take the best for who they are individually, and I think that adds up in the end.
And also, if you demand a debate, I want to add to what you're saying. If you demand debate of your potential public servants, the issues are going to be analyzed and discussed in greater detail. That's right. And to greater depth, and everybody gains from that. The politicos and the citizenry, because you understand. If you just sit there, I have no idea what some of these folks stand for, none, at all, and I cannot understand why people aren't saying, "What do you stand for?"
That's
really
right.
Blows my mind.
A lot of times, people don't even have somebody running against them. I mean, you have to stand up and say, "Let's debate." Hey, what entitles you to this position? And in many cases, these people have been in office for 20, 25 years without even an opponent. And it's time that people get rallied up as well as the other candidates who are going to run.
All right. Maybe you'll be running for something one of these days. We'll see. Stories, wisdom, and recipes here. Ladies and gentlemen, the Celebrities with a song entitled, oh, I have it here somewhere, gentlemen, We Three.
How happy could I be? makes me feel like I have the biggest frown in town. If you can feel that pain that was built inside of me, I would pull your tree back. Let me feel so free, singing these words right to you. Bringing new colors, maybe a shade of blue. Make you feel just like I do. Come on, sing it with me, baby. I do, we dream. How about I do, we dream. How about I do, we dream. How about you?
The celebrities here on Stories, Wisdom, and Recipes. And I want to introduce the guys to you now. We have David Joyce right here, and we have a wild and crazy guy, Steve Martin. Is that too, like, are you too young for that reference?
Oh, no.
No?
Yeah, all the time.
I figured that wasn't too original. So, gentlemen, you guys sound wonderful. Thanks for being on the show.
Much. Thanks for having us.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I'm wondering if you have any information to share. You have any gigs coming up?
Absolutely, yeah. We, let's see, Friday, May 13th, we're playing at Biscontini's in Pittston on Main Street. We play there every other Friday, so
You think
make
they
sure to
asked you
check us
Friday
out.
the 13th for a reason?
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was Friday the 13th. But
I got him scared.
But yeah, we're playing now as a celebrities, as you were saying, and we're just doing a duo, and we do a first set all acoustic, and then our second and third set we bring in a small drum set. I hop back on the drums, and Dave stays up on the guitar and sings.
Excellent.
And we play everything that everybody wants to hear. You know, we play some John Denver, wide range, Neil Diamond, Neil Young, The Who, Springsteen, Dave Matthews, Lenny Kravitz, The Beatles, you name it, we play it.
Oh, cornucopia.
That's right.
That song. Stylings.
Yes.
And these songs today are originals, right?
These are originals. Yeah, we don't really play originals out. We're gonna eventually get there, but like we were saying, we're playing the stuff that people want to hear, the stuff that we know will keep people in the bar.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's wonderful to have you here, and we'll have you on one more time later on in the program, right, with another original called The Original.
That's right.
All right.
I named that one, right? guys?
That's right.
That's a work in progress, I guess.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you. The celebrities, they'll be
Thank
back
you.
in a few. Excuse me. And before we get back to Mr. Kevin Haggerty, a sort of social justice impresario, guru, if you will, at the very young age of 32, I want to share a couple of things with you. A friend of mine asked me to announce this. Part-time help needed in downtown Scranton office, assisting young disabled man with lunch and related activities. Weekdays, May 23rd through August 26th, 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. would be when you would be helping this gentleman out. $10 per hour, you'll get paid. No experience needed. Free parking. If you're interested, please call Keith at 344-7211 at extension 209 between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. or in the evening at 587-2380. Again, call Keith if you're interested, 344-7211, extension 209, or at home, 587-2380. All right. And also, we have an event coming up June 3rd and 4th at the Moonshine Theater in Scranton, Pennsylvania, Adams Avenue. It is the Ash Fest 2005. We are bringing in a group of, I guess, historic rockers from Britain called Wishbone Ash, and there'll be an arts and crafts fair both days, open to the public at no charge. featuring musical merchandise, jewelry, t-shirts, clothing, food, and beverage concession stands. Auctions and various entertainers and performers will be there throughout the day. And if you have a ticket for the concert, you can hang out there and meet the band, get some photo opportunities, autographs, Q&A sessions as well. And at the end of the day, you'll have a live performance with Wishbone Ash. Some of the guest musicians that will be there, Tony DeMarco, renowned traditional Irish fiddler, and Brendan O'Sullivan, a renowned accordionist. Again, this is the Ash Fest 2005, featuring Wishbone Ash, coming in all the way from England, June 3rd and 4th at the Moonshine Theater in downtown Scranton, Adams Avenue. If you need more information, call 474-5049 or 594-5917. And finally, a couple of quotes, and I think Mr. Haggerty might like these. This quote is from John Durham Peters. Pity is the totalitarianism of the righteousness. Another one from Don Watson. Politics is a wrestling match with chaos, and it prizes those who seem best able to impose their will upon the impossible. And last, this comes from a Scranton native, actually, renowned urban planner Jane Jacobs, who went to school right across the street at Central High School. How and why can a people so totally discard a formerly vital culture that it becomes literally lost? Again, a Scrantonian, Jane Jacobs. Some quotations that maybe will incite some further thought for you here on Stories, Wisdom, and Recipes. And speaking of thinking and thoughtfulness, insight, Mr. Kevin Haggerty is sitting next to me. I have some more questions for you, sir. You ready?
I'm ready.
Why is the sky blue? No, never mind. Do you believe we live in a compassionate society?
I do. It's compassionate, but it's also a society of rules and regulations. And in order to keep people safe, you have to make some decisions that may not be looked at as compassionate. And I think some of the crime that occurs and the responsibilities of judges and government to make this less prevalent creates a dynamic where we may not look compassionate, pro-life, the death penalty, things of those natures. They're a deterrent to make things safe so that we can live a compassionate life. It's the chicken or the egg theory, and these decisions have to be made, and it's difficult ones.
So sometimes tough love, is that what you're saying?
It is tough love. It is tough love. You can still disagree, I'm personally pro-life, and I don't believe in the death penalty. I don't believe in abortion, and I'm always going to be firm about that. I don't have a problem with those who disagree. I enjoy the conversations, as we talked about, getting groups of people together so you can learn more. And I've learned over the years. My views have stayed similar, but have changed some points. And I believe ultimately we should be compassionate to each other, regardless of the different beliefs and views that we have.
At least you're consistent when you say pro-life.
Right, and that's the thing. The death penalty, in my eyes, is not a deterrent. When people, as they talked about younger brothers looking up to older brothers, the people that look up to the government as sort of a figurehead, and if we can kill as a government, so can we as a citizen.
Yeah, what message are we giving? You're right.
That's right.
So we are a compassionate society, though we have to also sort of protect some of the moral and ethical imperatives that allow us to be civilized.
Right.
By being strong in our I guess, reaction to certain activity, or the proposition of certain activity, like abortion. Though the death penalty does not do any good, in your view. It's not a deterrent.
I don't believe it is.
It's more of vindictiveness, perhaps.
It's people's beliefs that it is a deterrent, and that's the difference. Some people believe that it is a deterrent and it will stop crime, but it hasn't. For centuries, it has not. And I think, like I said before, these people need to look at it as a government, as a compassionate government. Who, people commit crimes, they need to go to jail and have hard labor. But to kill another human being as the face of God, I don't think we can look to our government as the face of God, and that's what we do.
That's very. I'd love to go off on that line of talk with you, but I have more questions. This is a somewhat poignant one, I think. Does money and consumer desire direct us to a better sense of human goodness?
Well, you need money to get things, and you need money to educate your children. It's important to have a drive in life. At what point you set that aside? What's the limitation of what you need actually? It's up to each individual to feel what successes they need, what goals that need to be met, and when money comes into play, certain people need more to fulfill their happiness. They need the houses down the shore, and they need their cars and their yachts even, and some people just want the mortgage and the ability to put food on the table. And then there's others that just want the ability to have a job and to actually have food in their mouth. So it's all different. Money is important to sustain life. At what level we need it, that's what's up for debate, and the different backgrounds of who we are.
And I guess I could infer that in our country, we believe that sort of individualistic choice is what we want to support. As long as everybody has an even shake at a bare minimum that is healthy.
Sure. Well, you want the people who become successful to understand that even though their opportunities came to them, that there's other places, other people that don't have the same opportunity, and to be able to distribute the wealth through education. I'm not saying give money to people who don't have it, but give them chances. Just that's opportunity. People seem to get to a certain level and think, I've worked this hard for this. Why am I supposed to give it to somebody else? But that's where we're not compassionate. The distribution of wealth in America is not equal. And people like Bill Gates blow my mind the way they give back.
He's given billions.
He doesn't want to have money when he's at the end of his life.
He said he wants to give away 97% of his fortune, I guess.
It's amazing.
But 3% of his fortune is still pretty significant.
I can live on that for a year too. But you don't need to be Bill Gates to give back. It doesn't have to be actual money, monetary value. You can give back through service, but you should also give through money as well. I mean, we could all afford a little bit more. You can go to the dinner in a bar and spend $100 in a night, and then you go to church and you put $2 in the basket, and you got to question why you do that stuff. And I'm guilty. I'm guilty.
Oh
of that
yeah,
as well.
I mean, I know you're not speaking down. You're talking about yourself
I'm talking about
and your
myself.
fellow citizens.
Right.
I mean, that's what it's all about. Mm-hmm. Self-reflection, honesty, and then dialoguing with all those around you to try to figure out how to grow.
That's right.
It's tough when I'm talking to you. I'm trying to judge you now, although we talked about not judging in terms of would this guy be a Republican or a Democrat? And I can't tell. One moment you sound like a Republican, and you don't have to tell me.
Right.
If you want to, you can, but you don't have to. And the other moment, a Democrat. I'm not sure. Maybe you're not either. I don't know.
Well, until I move back to Scranton, I'm not going to reveal it.
Yeah, you don't have to. You don't have to. Okay, another question for you. This is long-winded, but again, I think it's sort of poignant. And it connects back to what we were talking about earlier when we were talking about social justice and some of the things that you witnessed firsthand when you were working in different situations within poverty-stricken neighborhoods. How does an individual who's struggling from paycheck to paycheck communicate their experience to an individual who hasn't much to worry about economically?
As far as the students?
No, I
teachers
mean a person that's actually struggling day to day.
Right.
And they're trying to communicate what their life experience is like because of this struggle, economic struggle. Mm-hmm. How do they get that message? How do they communicate that message to those who haven't a thing to worry about economically? So that
I understand.
There's a connection and a focus on the disparity.
I think it's getting the people with more privilege, more money, the opportunity to come and see what you do for a living, to come and serve one day. And it doesn't have to be a career change, but maybe just a weekday or a Saturday to go to the schools that you work at, or go to the shelters or the soup kitchens, the residents, the detention facilities. If they just could see what these people are living in, I think their hearts are as good as all of ours. And maybe that will, put something inside of them to make some changes and to realize that they are gifted. Because you can't blame them for not understanding if they've never been part of it, if they've never seen it, firsthand. So that's a way I think you could get them involved and just kind of coerce them into doing some good, and then once they do the good, they're going to feel better about themselves, and I think then they'll give back.
And then they'll start thinking about things rather than avoiding it altogether.
That's right, and maybe again the fear aspect. What we fear, we don't know.
Right.
That could be it.
Yeah. Okay. So it's really about those who have being open enough to get into situations where many have-nots are living life.
Right.
The have-nots, in the words of Marx, do you believe otherwise they can't get their message to the haves?
No, I don't believe that. I believe there's reasons that everybody has what they have, and like we talked earlier about getting together and learning about our gifts and our traits and our talents, and our faults. You know, when we learn about each other, we're gonna see. You know, we all have these things. We all have successes. We all have faults, and let's learn about them. And
You mean like personal successes, not financial? Is that what you're talking about?
even financial, you could tie it into financial. You know, there's a reason why you're financially successful. Now, if you're financially successful because you worked hard, then you know what? You could also work hard to give back. You know, you have a work ethic, and it doesn't need to just mean about your own individual family. You know, you could be able to give if you're that successful, you can give back in other venues.
Oh, and I agree with you. And I mean, you speaking to folks who are of a similar economic situation as yourself, you will have a greater effect on propagating change in the mindset and involvement from someone. But if you have a migrant working Latino man who's living in a ghetto situation with his family because of whatever reason, how does he let middle America and the richer portions of America know what he's dealing with? You know,
You would think through his children, through hoping that they get the best education possible, where they could spread the message. Sometimes it is a lost cause for people in their 50s and 40s. And they need to give their hope to their children and let them, through education, spread what's been going on for generations.
that's a good, and I forced that one out of you, and that's a good response. It is the next generation, because when the children get together and they're raised with children from all other walks of life through the great public school systems that we have in this country, I had to put a plug in for public schools. Then children, they don't really write you off because of how much money you have or what you look like. And they see, and they grow up and spend 10, 12 years, and they, you know, these are my friends.
Right.
And now they have a broader mindset. You know, just like myself and yourself, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, 75 years ago, it might be tough for a Haggerty and a Pugliese to sit down and talk because of our ethnic backgrounds.
Well, you know what, and you say that, and I can't imagine that, but
No, me either.
but I wasn't there, and
Me either.
what I always ask myself is, what are my kids, my grandchildren, going to say about me? What am I missing today that they're going to say, I can't believe you thought that way? And I come up with a couple different theories, but you know, those people didn't know they were making mistakes back then.
No.
But what are we doing today?
What have we learned?
What have we learned? But what are our children going to say about us? That, you know, Dad, you believe that? That's not right. You know, we just learned in school that that's not right. And I'm wondering what it is. I don't have the answer yet, but I'm hopefully going to learn before I have children.
I'm sure you will. I'll bet on you. All right, one more question. I got the 2-minute warning. The 2-minute warning. And a 2? Mark, is that right? I was a little late. Okay. What at present, and I ask this of everybody that comes to the table, what at present concerns you most in this life, and what at present inspires you most in this life?
One of the issues that concerns me today is prescription drugs in healthcare in the country. A nation as wealthy as we are, to have senior citizens who have worked their entire lives to build homes and send their children to school, and who are going to get sick. As you get older, you get sick. And not to be able to afford prescription drugs. I think to myself, and I've talked to so many senior citizens, they should only be worrying about how they're going to get to the drugstore, not once they get there, could they afford these drugs. Doctors are prescribing them because they're sick. And the government has to come up with a better way to let them afford these drugs. We're pro-life, but we're not pro-living. These people need our help, and they've given back to our country. They don't want anything more than what they've earned. But now that they're sick, we asked for the weak, the tired, the sick, and the poor. We have them, so let's start protecting them. That's a concern. Late-term health insurance is a concern. Again, the same people have worked their entire lives to build a community around their families and to maybe give back to their kids and to have an inheritance. And they get sick and they go to nursing homes and they lose it all within a year and a half or 2 years, $350,000 in 2 years. Things you wanted to give back to your family, they're just wiped away. And there needs to be an awareness of late-term health insurance where people, it's inevitable, we're all going to get old, that they're going to get old, they're going to get sick, they have to go to nursing homes. It should be covered. And it needs to be in the 40s and 50s. People need to be aware of those programs then. That's
a big concern. I can tell you're serious about it, and I agree. What inspires you? And you have about 30 seconds, the most.
Well, I'm going to go back to the teachers. I think it's amazing. I go back to the school district that we both went to and see the same teachers that have been there for 30 years teaching the same age group, and they don't get a lot of thanks. They send thousands of people out into the real world and all different jobs, and they built our foundation. And it's nice to go back and tell them thank you once in a while. And they treat you like you were the best student ever, and I know I wasn't. And
Yeah, me either.
But and a lot of people will say they have their summers off, but I don't think anyone really understands what it's like to have children in front of you for 8-9 hours a day for that length of time. They really are the foundation of our country, and that's where the money should be spent in education.
I agree, and I'll be so bold to say that Dunmore did pretty good with us.
That's right.
We're not total idiots, right?
Not totally.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. All right, you're watching Stories, Wisdom, and Recipes. It's a pleasure to have had you with us. Kevin Haggerty,
Thank you.
great
Lawrence.
guest. Great guest. Thank you
Appreciate
for
it.
coming. Hopefully we'll have you back again.
I'd love to.
And we're going to hear from the celebrities in a moment. Don't forget to tune in a couple of weeks. We'll have another star-studded, eventful hour for you here on Channel 61. Thanks to the crew, and hopefully we see you at the Riverfest this weekend in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Be that as it may, now we go back to music on this wonderful May Day with the celebrities. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.